amazing to see you. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
It's true.
It's nice to be seen, Tom, after all these years.
Yeah, well, maybe we could start there. It was a choice that you made to kind of just not record for a while or take time off. But I understand that, by the way. How many years were you on the road? I think that's where I'd like to start. I don't know how you guys do that.
Excuse me, Tom. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you need to be closer to your mic. Steve's about twice as loud as you.
That's okay.
Steve, there you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I do have kind of
twice as loud as you. Just a little closer. I said, I'm fine with that.
Okay, can you hear me now? Because I'm
Beautiful.
still pissed off.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a projected type voice.
I wonder why that. Where did that ever come from? I wonder. Michael Bryant, Bradshaw and Bryant, what's the latest?
Well, basically, we're trying to represent people who've been hurt that talk to them before they talk to an adjuster. One of the key is to make sure you know what your rights are before you start talking to the insurance company. And they start asking you questions, or they try to settle your case early and cheap.
Well, what's interesting to me is, a lot of people have fear of attorneys. It makes them very uncomfortable. They get nervous about it. What should I do? I've known Michael for years and years now, and I would highly recommend you. So that should be good enough for everybody, because I don't endorse people who are dirtbags.
Oh, I appreciate that. But I guess the key is people think I'll charge them if I talk to them.
Right.
So a lot of people call me up. It's like, how much is this going to cost if you call me back? Like, you want me to call you back? How much will that cost? I don't charge people. The only way I get paid is if we recover, if we get money from the other side. And there's a lot of people I talk to that I never get paid for, that are just part of giving them advice to make sure they know what they can do and what their rights are.
And your record's terrific as well, we should point out.
Well, it works.
It's been good, ladies and gentlemen. And how do they contact you?
At, either through our website, which is minnesotapersonalinjury.com, minnesotapersonalinjury.com, or at 800-770-7008.
Michael Bryant, Bradshaw and Bryant. Walzer Automotive is a Minnesota family-owned business that started in the 50s. It's grown by leaps and bounds, especially in the past few years, and they now have 23 dealerships spread across 2 states. The Walzer way includes upfront, no haggle pricing on every single new and used vehicle they sell. If you change your mind, no problem. Check out Walzer's 3-day return and 30-day exchange policy. I'm a customer. My family are customers, and many of my friends have bought cars from them. The Walzer way is really different, and I know you'll be pleasantly surprised. For great deals on new or used Acura, Audi, Buick, BMW, Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, GMC, Honda, Hyundai, Jaguar, Jeep, Land Rover, Lexus, Mazda, Mercedes, Mini, Nissan, Porsche. It's like, I've always been mad at Steve because I can't sing along to your songs. You're far too good to sing. I love to sing. I was a singer for many years, but man,
What'd you sing?
R&B.
Like what?
Give
me one. What's your favorite R&B song?
All time is probably Black Pearl.
Wow.
I love Black Pearl.
That's a beautiful song.
Oh, God. That
Beautiful melody.
No, I can't sing that song either.
Oh, it's a beautiful song.
It is. It's wonderful. Temptations, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What were your inspirations when you were a kid?
Same thing. We were just talking about this morning at breakfast that Motown was my go-to. I remember being in the backseat of 57 Chevy in high school, going to a prom, and Baby I Need Your Lovin' came on.
Oh.
And back in those days, of course, I couldn't drive because I was too young, so we double dated. And they had speakers between the back seat, left and right.
Sure, yeah.
And I could hear Levi Stubbs just beautifully screaming out, Baby, I Need Your Lovin' with the Four Tops behind him. And I never forgot that song. So that was kind of some of the early beginnings, along with Sam Cooke.
Oh, Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Another great one. We should do, we'll just throw this in the interview too. You and I should recut Lost That Love and Feeling. You can cover Bobby, and I can cover...
yeah, I'll be Bobby Hatfield.
Bobby Hatfield, guy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he was a singer.
That whole thing, I think, really inspired my life. Reading, I talked to James Patterson this morning. I was telling people 375 million books. Singing and reading were the 2 things, because I grew up in a very poor neighborhood.
Right.
My mother raised 7 kids by herself because my dad was institutionalized. That's what they say now, by the way. You're institutionalized.
Well, that was code word for...
he was mentally ill.
Oh.
He was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
But my go-to was guys like you. I mean, it made me feel much better. Marvin Gaye, obviously, but reading and music were the two things for me that literally got me through my early years, my teen years, my 20s, all of it. You guys do need to know what you do for people.
Well, that's so sweet to say that, because I got to tell you, music saved my life too. When I was about 5 years old, I discovered the radio, and I never lost my love for radio. It was a connection to the world, living in a small town of Hanford, California, in the central San Joaquin Valley of California. And it seemed like it was just something invisible that was out in the ether of the world, and music was coming into my handheld transistor, and I'm hearing these amazing songs, these amazing R&B songs. I know something about love, all these songs, and that stuff I'm just captivated, because my parents were splitting up when I was 7 years old. I loved my father; he was a singer, and mom and him were having trouble, and I never understood back in those days what was going on. These kids were not told nothing. All I know is like you were saying, I gravitated to music as a fantasy, a place I could go for solace and just feel good about my life.
I got very lucky, because I used to think during those songs, I wonder if a woman that good looking is ever going to fall in love with me. It's like, hey, you talk about how beautiful these women are, or whatever the situation is. And you think about that. And I guess one reason I mention that is because I remember being 10 years old and again, doing a lot of reading and listening to music, but I go to movies once in a while. And I saw the movie Girls, 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 starring Elvis Presley. And I looked up and I went, I ain't never going to be that good looking.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So we began at the very beginning, which I love. What drove you? So you found solace in music.
I did.
And it was very tough because mom and dad, that's a tough deal.
It's a tough thing, yeah. And I went back to that hometown and went to that house and shot some photos there with a really great photographer. And the house is, of course, in disarray, and basically, a drug den, I guess, is what I call it. And to walk through the house for the first time, after not seeing it since I was about 10 or 12, was one of the most painful and cathartic experiences, because all the memories in my mind's eye are a certain way. Now to walk through it and see it, first of all, it's really smaller than I remember.
Oh yeah, much smaller.
Very small,
Yep.
But a lot of memories came back. Some good, some not so good. So, but it's cathartic. The whole process of leaving the band and being gone for, I gotta tell you, probably 30 years. 24 years ago, I did something, but.
Yeah, it's pretty good something, by the way.
Well, thank you. But nevertheless, I had to jump off and kind of just land back in that kind of life and walk through all those thoughts and memories. And that was going to be a life that I had to make enough again, because you can't always live in this circling the globe sort of life that it becomes. If you're so fortunate, by the way, I'm not complaining, Tom.
No, I understand that.
Right? If you're so fortunate to get in the music business, which was a dream come true for me, it still has its challenges, and you don't have to look too far to see people not survive it.
One of the great experiences, because I've been doing radio since I was 18 years old. I worked at Capitol Records actually for about 5 years because I kept getting fired. I know it's hard to believe that I kept getting fired because I'm such an even-keel guy.
Were you out at Capitol in Hollywood?
Yeah, I worked in the Midwest, but I always reported to.
You know that has the best live chambers in the world.
Oh, I'm telling you, that microphone that Frank Sinatra.
That's right.
Did you sing in his microphone?
No, I did not, but I've used those chambers. Capitol 5 is the chamber. It's a live chamber underneath the studio in a basement that I guess was designed by, I'm drawing a blank now. This is what happens when I get this old.
Yeah. You look like you're about.
Les Paul.
Oh, my God.
He designed the chamber, and it was built by somebody else, but he had designed it because he was a genius back then.
See, honestly, God, you make references, and this interview is going to go like 10 hours.
That's okay. We got a lot to talk about, Tom.
One of my favorite things, and I'll move on very quickly, I promise. Johnny was playing a Les Paul. Many people don't know that Les Paul's plugged in underneath instead of in the face of the guitar. And he was over at the Labor Temple singing. I just love Johnny when he's playing, but he kept stepping on the guitar chord, the chord. and therefore you'd unplug the guitar. So you hear this magnificent guitar playing this wonderful music, Still Alive and Well, or whatever it was. And every time he stepped on the chord and his guitar's up, and he'd go, God damn it. It was phenomenal. So Les Paul, Les Paul. I had the pleasure to meet Les Paul.
Yeah.
So what you guys did for me, and you did, as moving through life, Foolish Heart, whatever it is, it's a magnificent song. It makes people. Do people understand what that is?
That song specifically was written by a really good friend of mine and myself, Randy Goodrum, very talented writer out of Nashville. We got together and were just sketching some ideas one day, and that song got finished the same day, which was something new for me. Randy says, well, let's come up with some ideas. So we came up with the ideas, and then we went and had lunch, and he says, great, we'll go back and do the lyrics. I said, what? Good, excuse me? I figured, usually you write an idea and then you think about the lyrics. He said, no, in Nashville, he called it skull. We're going to skull out the lyrics, skull it out.
Sure.
Dig deep in our heads. And we finished the lyrics that day. That song sketched and done and ready to be recorded that day. So it is basically what you hear. That is the song.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You can tell, but let me tell you something. And I hope this has been told to you before. I walked in here. Steve and I have never met before.
Right.
Love his music. Love your voice.
I owe you money, Tom.
You're like a quarter. But I walked in, and I always do this. I observe, and because of the way I grew up, protecting myself, I observe everything. Right?
Me too, Tom. I have that in common.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You comport yourself a lot like I do. You're a very nice man.
That's very interesting.
I hope people do. I hope you know you're a very nice man. You do protect yourself, which is a cool thing.
Well, I kind of grew up having to protect myself from about the age of, I would say 7, 8 on. I was on my own. I really was. And on that property where I went and shot some of those photos, there was a garage where I used to hide just to feel safe. And there was some locations to not be heard. Even when my parents called me, since time for lunch, I would own my own.
Yeah.
I would own myself by not responding. And, I had a lot of friends in the streets, and it was a tough time.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's probably where all the greatness comes from.
I think all the music comes from those places. I really do, still.
I think that's absolutely right, because you'll never forget it. It's the beginning of memory for most people. They say by the time you're 9 years old, you forget your early memory. You actually remember being 2 years old, 3 years old until you turn 9, and then that goes away. So you get to about 4 or 5 then. So some of your earliest memories, my earliest memories, are hard times and strife and things like that. I don't think you can be that creative as you are without having gone through that. I don't think you can do it.
It's going to sound really strange, Tom, but I honestly don't claim any credit for my creativity. I don't, because all I do is start the process, and I try to stay open to what is happening, and I just sort of nudge myself around, like, well, I like that, well, that's not so good, I'll follow that, and I'll follow that for a while, well, that's pretty cool, well, that's not so cool, and I'll I just keep following the openness of what can show up, and again, this may sound strange, but it kind of tells me on its own what works and what doesn't. I pay attention to it. Go ahead.
I can see that. After being away for a month or two.
Couple of weeks.
What happened? You must have felt many, many times, I gotta get back out there, man. It's what I love. It's what I do. Or maybe you had other things on your mind. You weren't thinking about that. But that must have, it bothered me that you weren't around. So it must have bothered you, you know what I mean?
Well, I was so fortunate to be in the band journey. It was a time of my life that I would do it again in a minute. I really would. If I could go back and do that all again, I'd do it again. But, things move on. We were at a point, I think, and I certainly will speak for myself, was at a point where I was just burned out. my love for music, as I said earlier with you, that it saved my life, had left me, and I was very frightened about that. I was feeling very uncomfortable with music, PTSD kind of feelings. What is happening here? That coupled with, to be honest with you, some extra behaviors that started to show up to fill that.
What? Not me.
Not me. But I think when your love for something starts to wane, you're going to start to fill that gap with something that's probably not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you put that together and it just started to crash. And so I knew in my heart intuitively that I need to just do one thing, and it's not going to be a popular thing. I just need to stop. And so I did. I just stopped. And everybody went, what's going on?
Right.
I need to stop. So I did. And I just ended in my life and tried forever to make that just be enough. Now, you're right. That was tough because every night you get people loving you, giving you applause. You get adoration. You get so much love from people when you're performing and they love your music. Walking away from that is insane, my mind said. But I knew if I start using external assistance to keep going,
He's looking right at me when he's saying that. I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna end up being another one of those statistics that we know exist for people who are successful in this business, for any business. So I had to stop and let where I am hitting the ground be enough.
It was being on the road constantly. I don't know how you guys deal with that. I used to, as an example, I used to live in Minneapolis on Saturday and Sunday, in Chicago on Monday and Friday, in New York City on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now I got to stop, or at least, well, I guess in Chicago it was only one day at a time. How do you do that? Just travel, do like when you were with Journey, how many nights a year would you perform?
Yeah, the pacing of that tour in those days, all the tours, in fact, were usually 2 to 3 on, 1 off, which was not a day off, it was a travel day.
Right.
Then you do another 2 to 3 on, or 4 on. That's what you could do when you're really young, Tom.
Wow.
Really. I mean, I was young and I was passionate for it, and I was just hungry, as the word implies, and I loved it. So, and there was no extra behaviors until towards the end where I was burned out is when I started to misbehave slightly. I was not the only one. I mean, we were all, anyway. But the point is that myself, like I said, I had to make some changes.
A program that benefits the homeowner and not the realtor? Do you want a guaranteed offer on your home? Hey, it's Tom with my realtor around the world, from what I understand, and you're doing a great service to people. And I do talk about my kind of journey down that same road, and I also had an anger issue. That's hard to believe.
I think they go together, don't they?
They kind of do.
They do, yeah.
So to be honest with you, last time, it's been about 6 years since I've touched anything now. The last time I did was at a beautiful restaurant called Taboo in Palm Beach, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I got in an argument with the guy, and the guy at the next table said, "Why don't you watch your language?" And I stood up, and I took my steak knife, and I said, "Shut the F up, or I'm going to kill you." That was the last time I ever had anything to drink. Don't be nodding your head over there, Jill. I saw that. It's turning on us both over here. I know. But that's part of it as well. It's the sadness, the feeling alone. There's some anger because of that. You love what you're doing. All that gets very confusing, doesn't it?
In the beginning, when I first left the group and sort of the wheels touched down, and I just had to live my life without all the rest of it. My mood swings were somewhere between trying to find some spiritual solace with Joseph Campbell and having occasional Joe Pesci outbursts.
Well, at least they were funny. They were funny. Anyway.
So what's so funny about me?
Funny how?
How? Yeah.
I love that. So how long ago did this iteration of your life happen? When you decided to do something? We can talk openly about what you're doing now, right? Because this is going to be okay. You've got new work coming up.
Yeah.
When did that start? Do you think?
Well, years went by. I mean, years and years went by, and I would say about 6 years maybe or so, maybe 7 years ago, I met this girl named Kellie, and I was doing fine. I thought I had a pretty good open heart for all those years. I was pretty comfortable not being in the limelight, which I always was kind of all about. And I really didn't get into too much public eye, even when I was in the band. But I was pretty comfortable just being enough on my own and had no plans of returning to the music business. And then I met Kellie, and when I met her, she was already fighting for her life at stage 4 breast cancer and had been doing that for 3 years, but you'd never know it. She looked amazing. And she was a PhD psychologist, and we just were inseparable. And so for about 1.5 years, we were together. And then I lost her 12, 14, 12. And it took me 2 to 3 years of grieving, honestly, to think about opening up some of the songs that I was writing when I was with her, and some of them I'd written before I met her. And I opened up those hard drives with my engineer, Tom Flowers, and started looking at it. And next thing I know, I picked a handful of songs and we started recording. Because earlier on, she had asked me if something was to ever happen to her, that I would make one promise. I said, well, what's that? She said that we wouldn't go back into isolation. And I said, okay, I promise that. She said, it's got a feeling I'm going to make this all or not. She was looking at the idea that we met, we're together, and if something was to happen to her, that if that's the way it was going to go, it must have purpose. So I made the promise to not go back into isolation. And I'm talking to you now, Tom, about a new record I finally made.
Do you think, because I do want to talk a lot about the record, I'm very excited, because obviously I haven't heard it yet, but I get to in a short couple of days. Do you think her strength is what got you through the whole thing? You kind of like picked up on her strength?
I never seen anybody so in love with life and not giving up. And, Tom, how would a guy like me know if someone says, I love you? How can I believe them, Tom?
I know.
Right? How can I believe that? I'll tell you how. When someone like Kellie, stage 4 cancer patient, looks me straight in the eye and says she loves you, that's how.
Yeah.
So for the first time, she's got better things to do than to waste her time, doing that kind of a move. So when she said that to me, I was done.
Yeah.
That's the first time that maybe ever got in deep like that. And of course I loved her too. And we were inseparable. That started the whole process.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand it. Because, look, for me, again, you and I have a lot in common. One of those things is my wife is a very, very strong woman. She's far too good for me. I know that. But just the other night, part of what I do and take life a lot easier, she was standing over the sink and she had kind of a frown on her face. And I said, what is that, your I'm angry look? And she goes, no, it's my husband's pathetic and sad look. So it made me laugh. And that toughness that she has.
It's an honesty that you're grateful for,
So
and I had that too with Kellie. She would run the risk of my disapproval by telling me the truth. Okay. And I think men need that, by the way. I don't think men should not have that. Men especially need that from a woman. You got to have that. Relationships need that.
Oh, no question. Earlier in the interview, you brought up looking for some spirituality. Well, apparently you found it.
Well, I'm all over the map.
Well, there you are.
But I love every bit of it. I just think that I needed to, like I said, be enough at some level. So it's an always evolving thing, my contact with whatever life's meaning is about. Right now, I have to tell you, my purposeful meaning is to talk about doing something I swore I'd never do, and that I did it, which was get my feet back in the creative waters of writing, recording, arranging, mixing, singing music. I built a studio in my house, hired a great engineer, we were living in the box together and making all these decisions with incredible musicians coming and going, from Josh Fries on drums to Steve Ferroni to Vinny Caluto on drums to, I mean, just great players, John Five on guitar. It just, this goes on. I made a record I'm really proud of. And it's something I thought I'd never do. And here I am talking to you about it, and it's actually done.
I get to hear it in a couple of days.
Yeah.
I'm still excited about that. So basically, you carried all of this from the time you're 7 and whatever. One thing I will tell you about your music, when I listen to your music, it's real. It's not, I'm just make this line, oh yes, I love you the most. It's not like that at all. You talk about why things, why you feel the way you do, why you're doing what you do. You've always done that in your music, which I just love.
Oh, that's so sweet. Somebody told me one time they thought that I carry my heart on my sleeve, someone said. And I never heard that before. I don't know, Tom. I kind of ran from those feelings. I was on tour with the band for so many years. I would finish a show and I would leave. I wouldn't talk to nobody. This is the first time we're doing all this stuff. I just felt that I would just sing and disappear. And then finally I got to a point where that ended and I just disappeared. And now, I know, and by the way, that's amazing to me too, that I physically went away. Something miraculous happened. This music, I didn't even realize how much it meant to people until years go by and people still embrace it. I mean, what am I saying about that? I just don't think I have the words of gratitude even don't cover it. It isn't like I don't need any more. And the music was just gone anyway. You know what I mean? I'm just stunned emotionally that these songs still mean so much to people. More than anything, that's what floats my heart.
Well, here's one of the things that I should be mad at you because you're telling the Kellie story and I'm over here tearing up. Thank you so much for that. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I adore my wife that same way, and she knows that.
I'm lucky to have her. I want you to go home today with a dozen roses, Tom.
I can do that.
And when she asks you, Tom, what are these for? I want you to put a little card on it just says I love you. And that's it.
What you've done now in the beginning part of this interview, I never check the time on interviews. I just go and keep going. You've explained what this next album is all about. If people don't understand where it all started, what you've been through, how you adored Kellie, you found some spirituality in her strength. Tell us about the album. We know it's going to be, or it is phenomenal because you're done.
Well, I'm really proud of the record. The record is a semblance of music that I've gathered through those years. No Erasing is the first track on the first side. And it's basically a song about going to your class reunion and you see somebody you haven't seen in a long time and she's got her life but he's not there. You got your life, she's not there, and you're in a class reunion together and you go outside, sit in the car and have some conversation. Then you jump in the car and you go park. In my area where I was raised, there was canals, like lots of canals.
Yeah,
so we used to park on the canals and smooch. We used to smooch in the back seat of the car, in fact. And so you jump in the back seat of the car and you hang out together. Nothing bad happens, but you might smooch a little bit, and talk about the old days. And it's no erasing, and it's been a long time coming since I saw your face. It's just about that. And also the double meaning to the audience, because in a lot of ways they are the same thing. They are that reunion feeling to me of going to something that I haven't seen in so long. And so the opening line is, it's been a long time coming since I see your face. I know it's been a long time coming since I see your face.
Did you ever attend a high school reunion in real?
I have.
You have?
Oh,
That shocks me.
Yeah, I did the 10-year, and then I did the 15-year, and then I stopped. Just, I don't know. It was hard.
I would imagine it's probably true. I actually was a high school dropout. I did go to college for one day, but I couldn't find a place to park, so I quit. That's true story.
You couldn't play the point. You couldn't park so you left.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't go here. There's nowhere to park. It's just how life is.
I'm out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, I just, my high school reunion basically is thinking back to my high school counselor, and she said, Tom, you're 16 years old. Why are you quitting school? I said, because I have to get an education. And she didn't like that.
That makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
See, that's what I think shares is life's the greatest teacher. It's going to be a little rough. It's going to have invisible walls that you're going to hit. They're not going to feel good, but boy, everybody has to hit those.
No question. How long did it take you to write the new album?
The new album probably took about 3-4 years of sketching ideas, stopping, sketching ideas. Some of the songs I wrote, like Most of All, was a song I wrote before I met Kellie, but it was about profound loss. And I didn't play that for her because I didn't want to bring that energy into her quest to beat this thing she was facing. So after I lost her, I pulled the song out, and what was fascinating is the song was always about her before I met her, and then after I lost her, it was still about her. And then also there's another one on the album that does the same thing too. But the whole album isn't about profound loss. There's some rock and roll, there's some happy moments, there's a lot. Yeah.
No question about it, but it has, it has a deep meaning for you. It has, I haven't even heard it yet, but it takes a very special person, and I mean this in the highest regard for you and a lot of guys are so shallow, they found out that she had any kind of problem, they would say, oh, I can't do that. The fact that you did, and she did, is really cool.
Tom Barnard here to tell you, Priority Courier Experts has immediate openings for drivers looking for more. Priority drivers are in.
I would love to. He's got his Joe Pesci face on again.
Okay. Patty Jenkins is a close friend of mine. She's a director, writer. She did the movie Monster. She did the last Wonder Woman. She's doing the new Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And Patty is just, like I said, a close friend. And she was editing a TV show called Five about women who had survived cancer. And one particular character in the movie is facing the same trials who happens to be an oncologist. And I'm sitting in the editing bay with Patty, looking at the television, and all of a sudden, the camera's panning across this patio of a hospital, excuse me. We start over. I'm sitting with Patty in an editing bay and doing this TV show called Lifetime, and the camera's panning across this patio in a hospital environment, and all these patients are sitting out as the narrator's going, this guy has prostate cancer, and he's doing fine. And this woman has cancer, she's doing fine. And we're living with it. That was the whole thing about it. They're surviving and going on with their lives, irrespective of the fact that they're fighting this disease. So I said to Patty, I said, can you go back? He said, okay, stop right there. Who's that? Well, that's Kellie Nash. I said, well, who's Kellie Nash? She's a PhD psychologist that had breast cancer. I put real cancer patients, that's how Patty rolls, I put real cancer patients around the actors so they would have some authenticity, emotion. So I said, do you have her email? She said, well, yeah, because she knows I don't do this. She said, why? I said, I don't know. Will you send her an email? She said, yeah. I said, will you tell her a friend of yours named Steve would love to take her to coffee or something? She said, yeah, something I should tell you. So what's that? She wasn't admitted, but it came back and it's in her lungs and her bones. She's stage 4. She's fighting for her life. I went, oh, God. So I was at that moment, Tom, where I too was challenged. Should I go forward with this and send the email, or should I just pull back? I already lost my mom, my grandparents who raised me. I'm an only child. I don't want to. My thinking is I don't want to get close to this anymore. I'm going to just, right? So my heart said, bullshit. My head said, I don't know. My heart said, send it. So I said, Patty, send it. And She got back to me, and we got together, had dinner June 16th, and we were inseparable.
That's it, though. That right there. I think most guys' heads would say, nah, I don't know if I can do this. But you actually have a heart.
A heart drove that.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of along for the ride.
It's not you, it's your heart.
That's right.
Where did that come from? Your mother, your father?
Well, you got some questions, Tom. That's a good question. Seriously.
Well, your music kind of speaks to that.
I
I always ask people that when they do kind things or they, work from their heart forward, somebody taught them that.
I would have to say the biggest part of that comes from my father and my grandmother on my mother's side. Then coming third would be my mother, and last would be her father. Because my grandmother, my mother's mother, was just the kindest, most giving. She would always buy food for people who lived in the neighborhood. And if we were up in like San Joaquin Valley in the area near Sequoia Park, she'd pull the car over, open the trunk, and my grandfather would say, "What are you doing?" He was a farmer, right? She'd say, "Come on, help me." And I'd go, "What?" I'd get out, she'd have empty crates, we'd steal oranges. Oh my God, I swear to God. And my grandfather said, we're going to jail, we're going to get shot, get out of here. So she said, "Shut up and help me, get out of here faster." And when we get home, she filled a paper bag full. "Take this one to Miss Malika. Take this one over to the Massafuchis. Take this one for my neighbors."
Right.
And I would just deliver fruit. So that's a lot of it comes from her. And then my dad he loved everybody. He just, I don't know, man. My dad was a wonderful cat.
Is that where the music comes from? Thinking about it? No.
Yeah, he was a singer. He was a great sort of baritone Sinatra-esque singer who won a contest in my hometown, in the theater back in those days Sinatra put together.
Do you think most people understand where their music is? Do they write great music? Do they understand where it comes from? Do they think they do, but they don't look back at the way you just did for our audience? Being that honest about it, where it came from, and to what degree, it's great music. It can't just appear.
Well, I think I have to give credit to the landscape of music as it continues to evolve in today's time, too, because I listen to all music. I love Ray LaMontagne. I love Radiohead. There's so many different bands I really like and listen to. I was a big Coldplay fan for a while. I love Katy Perry. I just go through all these phases of all these different kinds of music that just touch me. Like Sarah McLachlan, "Arms of an Angel" kills me. These are songs, Enya. In the early days, when Enya showed up in the 80s, I was devastated by that whole thing. So music has touched me and influenced my heart and helped me stay in touch with it so I can maybe access some of those feelings I think we're talking about.
It's really great. I think a lot of people aspire to be big-time musicians, big-time songwriters and singers, but I think they need to look inward and be really honest with themselves. It has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just appear. It comes from life's lessons that you learn, wonderful people you're around, maybe some people you're around that weren't that wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people do fail, because they won't do that, what you do.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I've been fortunate, I guess. I've been fortunate in so many ways, Tom. I can't even count them. I mean, I'm very fortunate. You know that it's easier to win the lotto than to get a career in the music business.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because somebody's winning the lotto at least once a week.
Yeah.
They're not handing out music careers.
No.
Okay, so that's how fortunate I really am. That's how difficult it was coming from a small farm community in Central San Joaquin Valley, dreaming, listening to radio come through this little transistor, and seeing an invisible ether of a world out there. I just wanted to be part of that so much, and I was so fortunate to become part of it.
Well, I think you worked rather hard too, didn't you?
But a lot of people work hard, and a lot of people are more talented than all of us, and they just, for some reason, the break never happened. So still, there's a lot of other stuff in play here.
You love baseball, I got to mention.
Yeah.
It ties in. Gary Gaetti was the third baseman for the Minnesota Twins when they won the World Series back in '87, '91. And I was standing talking to Gary one day. We were They're very close friends. I said, you know what's amazing, Gary? Some woman just whistled at me.
It's my fault. I swear to God. I'm psychic. I had a feeling I forgot to turn my phone off, and the moment I reached to turn my phone off, it whistled. I was right.
So it all works out in the end.
Oh, go ahead. Say that again.
But I was talking to Gary Galliani, nice man, who's a phenomenal baseball player. And baseball is a very special game, you know. But I said, Gary, isn't it amazing as you're standing here, you guys just won the World Series, and now you're back to start the 88 season. Isn't it amazing? You have to know there are people out there that are better than you at this, but they'll never get the chance to do it. He said, what are you talking about? I said, no, that's nothing against you. But there are some people out there that are a lot better than I am at what I do and a lot better than you at what you're doing, but they'll never get the chance to.
Exactly my point. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what that is, I don't know, except I think we're just very fortunate.
A lot of good fortune, no question about it. I just, anybody who, first of all, you're a very, very smart guy. Did you know that? You know that.
I've been called a lot of things, but
Not smart.
not as much that.
Never been called smart in your life, but you know you are. You're very observant. You're very smart. You understand what things are. A lot of people don't.
I try to. I try to be as aware as possible and truthful as possible. And you know, this is a challenge for me, and I'm embracing the challenge. Meaning, just talking about myself for the first time. I've never done this, Tom.
Never have, really?
No, not really. But I think that I think I'm ready to talk about myself. And I think back then I don't think I was ready. I just was not ready.
It's what I enjoy so much about this job is not working. I mean, to sit down here and talk to you about your whole life. I don't want to know just about, well, what about yesterday and what about tomorrow? That's great. But I want to know about everything about everybody.
Yeah.
I just love finding it because it helps me.
Yeah.
You know, I can grow in life if I know, now that I met you, it will enhance my life because you have, it's good to know somebody as successful as you understands why you were, and you have a big heart about it. You're a very nice man. You know,
Thank you so much.
you are. Though. I mean, I've talked to some people who aren't that.
Well, you're catching me on a good day.
Yeah, that's probably a good day. So I know how much time? Oh, really? You're coming up? Jill?
What does Jill say? What was the cue card?
Oh, we have limited time. How much time do we have? Blow them off. No, I'm just
For a little bit.
we're gonna talk all about them.
Steve's very big fan.
I'm having fun, Jill. Can I have some fun? Me and Tom are talking.
Jill's about 1/3 my age, but she reminds me of my mother. My mother would stand over me and lord over me like that, like you just did, Jill. That's a hell of a compliment, by the way.
That's right.
Very quickly, I'll tell you this. My mother was I grew up Roman Catholic. My mother was she thought JFK being elected president was the greatest thing ever happened because he was Catholic. Everything was Catholic. So my mother, unfortunately, is dying. One of the moments that you just shared, I adored my mother. I mean, just loved her. I hit her hand, and she goes, Tommy, I don't know if I'm going to die. I said, come on. Your whole life you've been faithful. You get to meet Jesus. You get to meet the Virgin Mary. And she goes, don't give me that. That's something you would say.
That's
right?
brilliant.
It is, isn't it? It's what I'm talking about. You understand that. It's wonderful. Now, we will spend the rest of the time talking about the new album because I want to know all about it.
Okay. So, song by song.
You should go over No More Crying
Okay.
and Sunshine's Great.
Okay.
You're kind of pushy over.
Okay. Did I talk about?
Have to stay on track.
Yes. Yeah.
Did I talk enough about no erasing, or did I go into something else? I could do another one.
You did pretty well on that.
I could do another one.
Just moved it 3 times.
She was listening.
She was listening. That's good. She's paying attention.
For everybody in Radio Land, that is Jill, one and only radio honey badger of the universe.
She's quite confident.
Yes. Confident. I like that.
She is.
That's a nice word.
And you're very. All right. Well, okay.
Okay. She's back to us. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So, no more crying. The intro. Talking about no more crying.
Yeah, I can do that. Could you please tell me what No More Crying? It interests me.
No More Crying is it's an interesting song. At the last minute of making this record, my engineer Tom says, there was one song on your hard drive that you had sketched, and it was interesting. I think it could really round off the record because we have so many different modes and colors and rhythms and directions. There's some rock, R&B, so many different things. He said, this song, I don't know. He says, I don't know what that song was. We'll look for it. So we looked for it, and we called it No More Crying. And I wrote it with Dan Wilson, who is a songwriter for Semisonic, who wrote Closing Time, and did a lot of work, I think, with the Dixie Chicks also back in the day. And that song was sitting there. So we started to overdub on it, work on it, bring it up to speed. The song has lots of different layers to it. It sort of has relationship layers. It has love relationship layers. It may even have some of my isolation era layers in the second verse about being alone and it's fine and I'm having a peaceful life behind closed doors, but in the dead of the night, I start to remember is what he says, so there's nowhere to hide from it. And then it also has some other, perhaps, old relationships going back to my success days. Then the song grows into some musical orchestral places that just for me are some of my favorites.
I cannot wait to hear them. How many cuts in the album?
There's 10.
I like that.
But yes or no? I can't hear you. Don't mention it. There's 10 on the record. There are some bonus tracks, but we're trying to figure out what to do with those right now.
And I get to interview you again when they come.
That's right.
That'll be good.
You may hear them. I don't know. It depends how nice you talk to Jim.
Braces. Why did you go with braces?
If you see the cover, gosh, I wish we had the cover.
Oh, you have a cover.
Hold on, I'm going to get the cover for you. Oh my gosh. When Andrew's here, I should have known that she'd be on top of this. What made me think she would be? My goodness.
So, I mean, very confident. Oh my God.
Hold that in. I'll hold this. So, this is the cover. The right side of it is the front of the album cover. The left side will be the back of the album cover. And if you look closely, my entire life is in and all over this cover.
Yeah.
I've missed a few things, but not much, Tom. My hometown is in there. My little theater where my dad sang Phoenix from Heaven, won that contest. Thanks a lot, if you look closely, it says appearing tonight, Ray Perry's son. It's me. There's my old house is in there. There's a bottle of wine with a snake around it from my more abusive days. And there even is some powder on the road, which we won't discuss. Back in the day, I mean, the old drum set on the left-hand side. There's so much on this, including in the clouds looking down is Kellie, my mom and dad. There's just a lot to look at, a lot to discover on this cover. Some of it is on the website.
Well, that explains to me exactly what we've been talking about for the last hour. You are who you are because of that.
Thanks.
No, it's true. I mean, it's heartfelt. It's wonderful. I don't know. I don't say this to many people, but I am very impressed with you as a human being, man. You're very impressive. What's true?
It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I've never had a chance to do an interview before, and I'd love to do this again anytime.
Oh, I would love to do it.
I'll come to your house and cook your wife dinner.
It works for me. It works.
As long as you're not there.
Yeah, thanks. I'll pick your roses, Tom. I'm not going to win in that argument at all. It's not going to happen. Trace is the name of the album, and we'll talk about it when the date comes. Want to reveal that yet?
Yeah. Okay. Traces is the name of the record, and it's coming out soon. October. Let me do it again. Traces is the name of the record. Traces is the name of the record, and it will be out October 5th. And I'm really excited about it, and it'll be available everywhere.
Okay, two things. The name of the album, a coincidence, a connection in my life. I have a nephew who got in a car accident when he was about 13. Had serious brain damage, and he's been affected by it ever since. He lost a lot of mobility. He doesn't speak very clearly. I adore this young man. He's a young man. I adore him. And his name is Trace. So that's kind of like, time to gear up over here. It's peaceful.
We should do is let's call him after we're done here. We'll give a call to him, talk to him a little bit.
Well, we could probably do that.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. Usually in these interviews, and thank you so much for your time. What a great honor to be asked to do this.
The honor's mine. Thank you.
You're amazing. Usually when interviews wrap up, like a red light will appear or a blue light will appear, and that the interview's over. In this case, it's Jill saying, "Tom, shut up."
No, I can't. I want to keep going.
Thank you so much. Great. Just talking to you, being in your presence, and everybody you have with you. Nice people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Perry.